In 2020, Riot Games changed the name of all their Mafia-themed skins from Mafia to Crime City skins. This was due to cultural insensitivity issues. However, this isn't the only time something like this has happened. Early in the game's life, Karthus was changed from being a skeleton to a more spiritual figure. This was to comply with censorship rules in China regarding spooky skeletons. But since then, things like this have only continued to happen. Today, we dive into the controversial content in League of Legends that had to eventually be censored.
We need to make sure it clears the Chinese censors, you know?
But before we get into that, today's video is sponsored by Repeat.gg. Repeat is a platform that allows you to make real money just from gaming. And I currently have my very own tournament where you can compete to win part of the $1,000 prize pool. The way it works is you sign up for Repeat.gg and link your Riot account. Next, go to the League of Legends section and join an available tournament that fits your criteria. Repeat will automatically keep track of your scores and use your best performances for the tournament. The top players will then be rewarded their prize money. And by the way, you can also join multiple tournaments at the same time, including my very own tournament starting May 27th to June 10th with a $1,000 prize pool. This could be you, in first place, taking home $100 just for playing League of Legends. So if you're ready to start earning money for your gaming skills, sign up to Repeat.gg with the first link in the description. Getting things started, the most controversial skin in the game isn't even a real skin. It's the default skin of the champion Graves. Unless you've been playing the game for the past 10 years, there's two things you don't know about Graves. One, he used to exclusively be an ADC, and two, his cigar was once upon a time the most controversial topic in the League of Legends community. And it all started almost 10 years ago. It's November 7th, 2014, and the Reddit user Puss Punter is about to deliver the bad news. They removed his cigar in PBE. I am not okay with this. Riot doing to Graves what 4Kids did to One Piece. The post gathered a lot of attention as users theorized why such a change was ever made, as prior to this moment, the game wasn't really a big victim to censorship. However, it didn't take long for a Riot employee to come into the comment section and explain what's going on. Hey all, I can give a bit of context on why the cigar was removed. Essentially, there was a significant risk of censorship or age rating problems in various regions based on the depiction of tobacco usage. This kind of thing is strictly enforced in parts of the world, and in this case, it became clear that we needed to remove the cigar in his splash art. The relevant laws sometimes apply differently depending on content type, which is why something that might work in peripheral content like a cinematic may not work in content like splashes that are tied specifically to the core game. And then a second paragraph basically saying they could have different splash arts for different regions, but they don't feel like it. This led to years of players making jokes, memes, and unironic outrage over the fact that Riot seemingly censored the game to adhere to another country's rules. People mostly were confused as to why such a thing like Graves' cigar was such a big issue, when the game presents sexualized characters, violence, and even some characters whose entire gimmick is drinking. That same character even has a skin where he's smoking, and it was never censored, though that likely has something to do with it being a skin and not the main splash art. But who knows. On May 4th, 2017, the madness finally came to an end. Riot made an official blog post addressing this important issue for one final time. Ask Riot Cigar Edition. And to make a long story short, they did it. They gave Graves his cigar back. This post is mostly about their solution, which was basically to create a method to show certain content in certain regions. For example, Graves with his cigar in regions that are cool with it, and the smoke-free version in regions that aren't cool with it. But to be honest, this post didn't get a lot of attention, and to this day, most people have no idea that they gave Graves his cigar back. Instead, these people are now busy arguing with Riot over their decision to make Graves canonically gay with Twisted Fate. But actually, speaking of being gay, this will always be a tricky spot for censorship in games. For those who don't know, on release, the champion Cassante was described to be an openly gay character. Because, why not? However, later in an interview with Sky, the executive producer of League mentioned that Riot did have to censor his release and lore in other countries, saying, quote, "Each region may publish certain aspects of the game a little bit differently to fit into the local culture." When asked whether the company makes changes or omissions to the storyline behind some characters to suit the regime under which the game is published, Global Public Relations lead Hannah Wu said, "Yes, I would say we do." I do personally feel like when you hear stuff like this, it makes this sort of activism seem disingenuous. It reminds me of the yearly meme from Pride Month. Brands will show support for LGBT matters unless it could affect their profits. But I understand. It's a complicated subject. Cassante, however, isn't the only time League had to deal with this. In our last video about this topic, we talked about how Riot's Pride event gets censored as well. Instead of being called a Pride event, the Turkish, Russian, and Korean servers just call it the Color Festival, an event to celebrate the different colors of spring. However, sometimes there is content that certain players want to get censored, but it doesn't work out. You may have heard about the police Volibear skin drama from a couple years back. I've mentioned it in a video before and recently in a YouTube short. The story essentially boils down to a manager at Cloud9 getting upset that professional players were choosing to use the police Volibear skin during the same time as the BLM movement, insinuating that these players were racist and in support of police brutality. Except that's an insane conclusion to come to. Players even defended themselves by educating that the Captain Volibear skin is just an overall good skin with quality sound effects and animations. This story went on to get a lot of attention, and she later apologized to the players she accused. However, she's no longer with Cloud9 today, which may or may not have something to do with those tweets. Again, who knows? But what I recently found out is that despite how ridiculous this sounds, this wouldn't be the first or last time that Riot runs into issues for having police-themed skins. In 2021, Riot went through a massive lawsuit regarding gender discrimination in the workplace. And through that, some employees came out with complaints they had with the company, including one who focused on police skins in League of Legends. This is a direct statement that was given to the Washington Post in 2022. One current male employee suggested that slow, sometimes contradictory approach to diversity can still be felt in other areas of the company today. He pointed to cosmetic skins available for purchase in League of Legends that turn champions like Vi and Caitlyn into police officers for roughly $6 or $10. Riot gave an admirable amount of money to activist organizations in 2020 following the George Floyd killing, but still profits on cop skins in League of Legends, said the Riot employee who chose to remain anonymous because he was not authorized to speak publicly on these matters. A Riot spokesperson did end up replying to this though. Those skins are mostly not monetized, have been in the game for years, and are part of a global game where the vast majority of the player base doesn't have a negative association with police. Now, although they have changed the name of skins in the past for offending certain communities, all of the champions or skins that resemble police officers are still in the game and remain untouched. The idea of people being upset over police skins isn't exclusive to League though. Overwatch in the past has had multiple police-themed releases, and all of them have been met with some sort of outrage, whether that be from random Twitter users or serious journalists. No matter what, people will always find a way to be offended over something. But one thing we can all come together and agree on is that that new $500 Faker skin may just be a little bit too expensive.